opportunity to bring to Ludhiana the STEAM practice we have developed with local business and create a powerful bridge between the two geographic locations, enabling the two business communities to collaborate, share best practice, understand and identify collaborative opportunities, and bring together the two interconnected sites for the benefit of the business community. I have over 40 years experience in creating and growing successful businesses. During this career, I've operated in various roles, from sales director through managing director to board chair. I've successfully provided advice and coaching to over 1,000 businesses in the UK in various roles, from non-executive to formal consultation. I've also acted as an advisor to multiple government agencies in respect of innovation and incubation. I wrote and piloted in 2003 the first Starting a Business workshop program in the UK, which went on to become the national Starting a Business program run by the Department for Business in the UK. I've delivered in excess of 100,000 square feet of innovation and incubation space within the UK, and I'm very excited to bring this experience with our partners in Ludhiana to support the new centre in Ludhiana. Today, as yesterday, we'll be offering you the opportunity to receive invaluable insights into the business success from some of the most experienced entrepreneurs in India, along with a view from the UK of how incubators transform early stage business. We will also be introducing the opportunity for you to engage in our new business startup workshop program, a unique and differentiated program bringing together the expertise from the UK with the experience and expertise in India in a single workshop program to deliver practitioner-based skills so that you can learn how to ideate, plan, prepare and deliver successful enterprise in India, utilizing that pool of experience from real practitioners that have been there, walked the walk, made the mistakes, and help you on your journey to success. I'd like to share with you some highlights from yesterday in case you were unable to join us, or simply to clarify what a fabulous set of speakers we had, and the insights they shared with us were really interesting. Mr. Sunil Journey very kindly shared with us some large insights into our purpose and mission. He confirmed to us that our programs and support of the business community should always be about inclusion. It should be for all. It should be about bringing the communities together. Those that have ambition should be supported and enabled. He talked about the social challenges that sit around us all and how we should reach out to those social challenges, question our communities about what those challenges look like and what the solutions might be. And he confirmed that our programs through MBCIE will be practice-based, led by experienced practitioners, and delivered in a mechanism to facilitate change and innovation based on the model of STEAM, blending the engineer and the artist, bringing together form and function. Mr. Ritesh Agarwal shared with us some fabulous insights into early stage ideation. He encouraged us to think about scale, even at the very earliest stage of starting our businesses. think about the scale opportunities. He confirmed to us that we must ideate our solutions on real world problems, not ideate solutions for problems that don't exist. He expressed how important it is to reach out, meet, and talk to your potential stakeholders, customers, suppliers, and engage with them to understand how you can provide a valuable, differentiated product or service. And he spoke about building a management team built on talent, reaching out through various outlets to identify high quality individuals. Great teams build great business. Mr. Vineet Rai shared some really insightful thoughts with us around business planning. He confirmed to us that we must have a business plan that articulates a solution to a real world problem, and suggested that often plans that he reads do not articulate that well. That's a great takeaway. We need to clarify who is in our management team, what experience do they bring, and how do they add value to the enterprise. He confirmed what all of us that have run businesses know, that self-doubt will always be there. Accept it, embrace it, and work with self-doubt. It enables you to reconfirm and challenge yourself. He confirmed that differentiation is so important in any business. A business that is the same as that which previously existed is unlikely to be hugely successful and simply become a price-conscious enterprise. And don't forget the 3 Ps: passion, perseverance, and patience. A fabulous talk yesterday. And lastly, yesterday, we heard from Miss Ashita Agrawal. She shared with us the volume and spread of government support for early stage enterprise across India. The toolkits that are hosted online that we can all reach out to support our ideas and thoughts. How she has developed with the Indian government toolkits that are hosted online that we can access and utilize as free resources to help us in our business journeys. And she confirmed that we should all reach out to AIM and talk to them about our business opportunities and the network of support products and services they have across India. Finally, I would like to confirm that we introduced the new business startup program yesterday. This is a game changer. This is not formal academic learning. This is a 12-week intensive program to take those of you who are thinking about new ideas, opportunities, and innovation on a journey that will lead to a real business opportunity, not a plan on paper, a plan that is ready to go into practice. And we will take you through that journey into our center in India and support you to be successful. And I urge you to consider putting yourselves forward to engage with this new program. Today, we have some other fantastic and insightful colleagues who've joined us. And I'd like to invite Mr. Sunil Journey and Mr. Surak Srivastava to join us in a fireside chat. Mr. Sunil Journey is an intrepid entrepreneur, investor, and recently successful author. with multiple passions and interests. Mr. Munjal is the chairman of the BCM Foundation and co-founder of BML Munjal University. He chairs the governing body of its alumna mater, the Doon School, considered to be the finest school in India. As the chairman of Hero Enterprise, he oversees diverse service and manufacturing businesses such as insurance distribution, steel manufacturing, real estate, corporate training, and an active investment office. Mr. Munjal is a true advocate of STEAM and it's been a huge support in our collaboration. He believes STEAM education supports startups in digital learning, bringing community transportation, healthcare, empowering women, enabling education, supporting financial services and consumer-facing businesses, amongst many other things. I have no idea how he has the time. What an inspirational individual. Bear with me, please. Mr. Srivastava is one of India's leading entrepreneurs, investors, and institution builders. Widely acknowledged as one of the architects of the Indian IT industry. He has been conferred with the Padma Shri and been awarded for his contribution to the Indian IT industry by founding NASSCOM by the Government of India. Mr. Srivastava is also co-founded other key institutions like the Indian Venture Capital Association and the Indian Angel Network. What a privilege and pleasure it is to welcome you today, sir. I hand over to the two of you to provide an interesting conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you for the very generous introduction. As far as Saurabh is concerned, I'm afraid, Saurabh, I've asked him to cut short your introduction because if he read out the entire introduction, we would take up the entire 25 minutes that we have available. You've just done so many amazing things. And it's rightfully said that you are one of the founders. In fact, somebody said to me, you're the father of the ecosystem which encourages innovation, tinkering, ideation, and startups, as also the focus on technology, innovation, and IT in India. So thank you very much for agreeing to come in for this session. And just for your information, and for those who are listening in today, we actually had Bhavish Agarwal for this session today, and people were excited to see a Ludhiana boy who's made good in the session. Unfortunately, he got COVID, and today was at his peak. He called me in the morning today, fever of over 102 degrees. He could hardly speak, and he apologized. And I said, that's fine. But we fortunately did even one better to be able to get you at such short notice. So double thank you, Saurabh, for agreeing to come in and be available for this fireside chat. You need to unmute yourself, please.
No, thank you, Sunil. I think you've said some very kind words, and I can never say no to you.
So let me ask you, let me go back a little bit, from the sleepy bylanes of Allahabad, where you were born, and I guess you spent some of your early years, to the hallowed portals of the IIT, then on to Harvard. So you've kind of seen the full spectrum of what the world has to offer, what India has to offer, what the world has to offer, both studying and working in the best of the institutions in India, as also in the US, and then working in some of the big giant companies. You work with IBM, you work with Tata Unisys, and then you came back. Tell us a little bit what drove you to come back to India?
So Sunil, actually, my intention was always to come back. My going to IIT was something that my family didn't approve of. My whole family from my grandfather down is in the civil service, the IAS, the IFS, all the rest. And I was a good student, so they took for granted that I would also.
I believe you were not just a good student, you were the topper of the entire IIT entrance batch as well.
Yeah. No, actually I was number 2 in the IT JEE. I was number 2, but I used that
number 2 amongst a few lakhs, a few 100,000.
So,
okay.
But I used that to convince my mother that, maybe I have aptitude, let me go to IIT. So I end up there, and I'd always wanted to go to Harvard, and I was fortunate. They accepted me, and it was a great experience. And again, initially the ambitions were of everybody in those times when I was at IIT. You join a big multinational, you become a senior executive, maybe CEO. So that was IBM. And part of the reason I joined IBM is because I wanted to come back to India. And IBM operated in India. So I thought it would be seamless, and it did work. I finished Friday in Boston, and on Monday I was at work in New Delhi with IBM. And then IBM left the country. So I ended up running the Unisys joint venture with the Tata Group. The big learning that happened, and you're right, coming from a small town like Allahabad, sleepy, but very focused on academics. The first time I ever lived on my own, because I never went to do school, so I wasn't in boarding. So I ended up in Kanpur for 5 years, and then in the US. So it was a huge learning experience, really broadened my mind. I mean, in my class, in my dorm, there were people from like 15, 20 countries. I'd never been to those countries, never met anybody there. So you grew up many, many years in that short period. But once I came back and was with IBM and then with running the Tata Unisys JV, I kind of felt that there were boundaries. You know how it is. You aspire for something, that's your ambition. But I found every time you get to what you aspired to do, you find it's not as great as it's cracked up to be. So you change your sights and move them higher or another direction. So getting to IIT was a big one. Then getting to Harvard was a big one. IBM, each of these were things I really wanted to do. But when I got there, let's say in Tata Unisys, I found that large companies have a lot of boundaries in what you can do and what you can't do. And you can't use all your faculties. And there's always a lot of politics. I mean, I'm not focusing on Tata Unisys. I chaired CA Technologies. I've been on the board of several big multinational companies, Indian companies. There's always necessarily a lot of politics. And I found that I was spending quite a bit of my time dealing with that and not with what I thought I could do. And somewhere down the line, I felt that, look, maybe if I did it on my own, I could do all the things that I'm not able to do here. I could move faster and all the rest. And that is why I sort of said, okay, one part of my journey, which is a corporate journey, now comes to an end. Now I start my entrepreneurial journey. And that's
how the entrepreneurial bug bit you.
Yes.
But you've done something unusual. You've been a founder you've helped start about 50 different startups. So what drove you to do that? Not just the one, but you carried on and did many, many more for yourself and for many others.
So Sunil,
what was that which drove you to do that?
It's a bit of that. There are two parts, I think. One is restlessness. One is trying to understand what your own strengths are, and you only find them as you go along, and what you like to do and what you don't like to do. So moving from like running a multinational or a JV, Tata Unisys, which was my dream when I was in IIT, I realized, this was a bottleneck. And then I said, okay, the best thing in life to do is create your own company and run it and build it and make it successful. So I did that. But then I realized, Sunil, that actually I loved doing what I was doing when the company was like up to 100 people. I knew everybody. You were creating something out of nothing. You could do whatever you wanted to. But then when it became a few thousand people, it felt like I was running another multinational or a large company. You know, you win a big contract, you lose a contract, you hire a great person, you lose a great person. It was kind of the same thing over and over again. And I realized that what I really loved was, for, let's say, negotiating the big deals or doing an M&A or thinking about, what I do next. And I didn't actually enjoy the day-to-day running of the company. And so I merged that into a company in the UK. We took it public and all the rest of it. And I continued to serve on the board because they insisted that I do. But then I did another company, again with some of the people who had left. And that was fun, but this time I wasn't running it. I was just one of the people who invested and promoted it, but I was very actively involved. And we got an exit, and then I did a third one. And then I said, look, this is not fun. If what I enjoy is creating something new, then let me stop running companies. Let me actually invest, become a VC, invest in companies where I have no operational responsibilities. I only get involved in the thinking, the strategy, the creation, and investing and whatever. And that was a big switch in a sense where I would say the 3/3 to my life so far. The first third was corporate, second third was entrepreneurial. And then I said the third one is, let's actually do venture capital. And the second reason also, Sunil, was that in my companies, when we created, we wanted to grow fast. And there was no venture capital available. Nothing at all. I mean, here we had a company which was profitable from the first year, growing at 70% a year, and no VC was around. So you could only grow through your own profits.
I can kind of confirm that, but because of about the same time we started doing this, and I remember the early conversation you and I had about the complete lack of risk capital and availability of risk capital in India, because even the old development institutions had become regular commercial financial institutions. They were for-profit banks now, the old IDBI, IFCIs, and all other risk capital sources had either dried up or just withered away. I also remember the meeting that we had with Mr. Arun Jaitley, the former finance minister, and gave him that long list of things to do to create the startup India.
So, you are quite an unusual person, Sunil, because you've been so involved with me in the early part of the whole entrepreneurial journey of India. In some ways, I would say from the early part of this century, of 2000. And because very few people in the existing big industry really were very interested in that area or very focused on it. So you were very unusual, I must say. And your support actually made a huge difference to what we were trying to do. So I did a venture capital fund, and actually it was interesting. At that time, there was only $1 billion.
It was that not the first fund in India, your first one, Infinity?
Yeah, it was the first private sector VC fund in India. Okay. Because there wasn't anything at that time. And we were very fortunate. We got some very good companies done. We helped create India Bulls. We used to own 21% of India Bulls. There was a vendor, some very good category companies that we did. But then again, I realized that as a VC, you want companies coming to you from some nursery. But there was no angel investing in India. So you had to do angel and VC. So then I felt after the VC fund that actually what's now completely missing is because other VC funds started to come in. And from $1 billion, which came in 2000, last year was 60 billion. So that industry has happened, but angel investing hadn't happened. And that's when, if you remember, I talked with you and we started thinking about creating India's first angel investor group. And we ended up creating at that time, again, I didn't realize how big it could become. I never realized it could become one of the biggest ones in the world.
I understand it's the world's largest angel network now.
Yes, and also a very rare one because we operate in multiple cities and across multiple countries. And even though we have members that are in excess of 500 spread across the world, from San Francisco to Tokyo and all over Europe, even now when we make an investment, we open a deal for investment, we close it within minutes. And we've had unicorns and whatever, as you know, you've been a great part of our journey. So it was again, in some ways, driven by creating something where nothing existed. So in many ways, I would say the good advantage of coming back to India, in some ways, was when you had an opportunity to create all these things. I mean, these problems were already solved in the US, but not here. To create the VC industry, to create the angel investing, because now, as you know, there are so many other angel groups that have come up, after we have done. And again, I think the other thing that I've really enjoyed, Sunil, which is also entrepreneurial, and again, because there's a need, is to, beyond companies, to create some of these supporting institutional frameworks. So IT industry, there was a NASSCOM creation which helped, just like IBCA now. You and I have been involved in creating this whole angel framework that we're doing. And I'm really looking forward, honestly, to what you're doing next, which is beyond just, startups and investment and financial returns, into dealing with the other piece, the other softer aspects, which actually make a society really whole. And nobody's looked at that place with an entrepreneurial framework in mind. So that's again a rarity, and that's why it's really, really very interesting what you're trying to do now.
That's an experiment in the making. We shall see where it lands up. But the attempt is to create something unique in the area of arts and culture, which is an exceedingly under-addressed but an important part of life for building any successful society or a civilization. So let me ask you a little bit about the differences you found, because you've also been deeply involved in Silicon Valley and the startup system there before you got engaged in the system here. And by the way, for the benefit of the members, Saurabh is the founder of NASSCOM in India, the founder of TIE in India, the founder of Indian Angel Network in India. He is on every government committee set up by either the government or by the Prime Minister to look at the entire ecosystem of risk capital, innovation, startups, or creating the ability for more and more engagement with job creation and using technology to ease life for all of us. So I think you deserve a big thank you from all of us for this.
You're too kind. You're too kind, Sunil.
No, but it is a fact. So tell me a little bit about the differences you find in the ecosystem in the Silicon Valley and here. And I'm going to specifically point at a couple of things because for a long time, we used to think it's only financing. And you already alluded to this a little bit. It's a lot more than that. And in some sense, Ishita Agarwal of the Atal Mission brought it up yesterday. There is a whole host of institutional support framework, social framework, financial framework, and a regulatory framework that is all required to come into place. But the one which has for me has been a bugbear for decades, and I've talked about this for a long time, is acceptance of failure. It is well established that in any society, when you start out, it is never guaranteed that you will be successful. And experience has shown that out of every 10, only 2, if you're very lucky, 3 are successful. And in fact, Bernard showed us some numbers yesterday, how 20% fail in year 1, another 30% fail in year 2. Certainly by year 5, 50% have failed. And there's enough data to show that 90% actually do fail. So failure in the Valley, in the American system, is not just accepted, it is celebrated. In our society, we've looked down on failure always. And we've got a permanent black mark on any individual, organization, institution, or company which fails once. So one big delight that I had the last couple of years was the introduction in India of the IB core, that allowing bankrupt institutions to turn back into productive assets. How about people? How can we encourage that more and more in India?
So you're right, Sunil. I think there are a few big differences between Silicon Valley and India to start with, but they're changing rapidly. I mean, one is in Silicon Valley, if you look at the, let's say, pecking order on status, I mean, I'm just using words broadly. The number one is a successful entrepreneur. And number two is a failed entrepreneur. Number three is somebody who works for a startup. Somebody who works for a multinational comes fourth. And if you're in government, unless you're Secretary of State or something, you're fifth. In India, at the time I went to the US, the pecking order was exactly the opposite. And that was a problem. That is what has started to change in India now. Because as you said, there was this big tag attached to, oh, he's failed, right? We forget that it's only somebody who's failed who has learned anything. Because if you are successful in your first venture, you know, it's a huge liability because you begin to feel that you know everything. You don't realize that it may have been luck, maybe timing. I mean, there's so many instances. Take Sabir Bhatia. I mean, when he did Hotmail, he had no clue what he would do with it. He just got lucky. Somebody saw value in what he was doing. It happens. But when you get that arrogance of knowing it all, what you do next is never going to work. So if you look at people who were wildly successful the first time, they very rarely succeed again. And that's why Deshpande is such a rarity.
Yeah.
Doing multiple unicorns is very, very hard. So in India, we had this mindset. But now, if you look at it, at least in the startup world, anytime people are pitching to me and somebody has done a very successful company, done an exit, and somebody failed, I'd rather look at the person who failed. But just to understand how that person took the failure. If that person says to me, they failed because, you know, the market was to blame, their team didn't work, the partners were bad. If they blame everybody besides themselves, then you want to leave them alone. They haven't learned anything. But if they have learned, there's nothing like a failed entrepreneur because they have something to prove. They want to say to the world, you know, it wasn't me. And the only way you can do it, you know,
and you're right. Since we were talking about California, of course, there are hotspots in Cambridge, in Tel Aviv. There are a whole bunch of these hotspots of innovation that have now got created, including, of course, the three big ones in India, in the NCR region, which a lot of people don't realize is the largest hotspot for startups now. It's bigger than Bangalore and bigger than Mumbai and bigger than Hyderabad. So it's quite amazing what's going on. In the US, interestingly, when you go to raise funding, since we had one session on funding yesterday by Vinitra, I should mention here, if you had a couple of failures, you're almost guaranteed to get funding.
Yes.
If you're a first timer, you may or may not, no matter how brilliant your idea. Because people also look at your ability and learning that you've had of execution, what works, and more importantly, what does not work. So let me talk a little bit about mentors now. You've done a lot of work also in grooming mentors in India, because one of the biggest assets I think that we are creating in India now, we not only have the third largest number of startups, but I think the way the ecosystem is getting created, we have the potential to build the most dynamic ecosystem over a period of time. And I'm saying over a period of time because we have some distance to go. We've been running classes at CI now for training mentors. We set up the Center of Excellence. You've been doing some of this stuff. And we hope here in where we are today at NBCIE, this is one of the things that we will do. We will attract mentors, groom them, train them, coach them, and counsel them to be able to give their best to the founders of startups and teams of startups. What would you say to a mentor if they came to you asking for advice? And I'm not talking about the startup now, the mentor to the startup.
Yeah. So I would say, you mean what I would say to the mentor or what I would say to a startup?
Yes, to the mentor. To the mentor.
So I would say
what guidance, what coaching, what counseling would you give somebody who said, I want to become a mentor? I have experience. I've run businesses successfully. How can I support 1, 2, or 5 other startups?
So firstly, I would say to them that they should be very aware of how critical their role is, because mentoring is often the difference between success and failure of a startup. So if they mentor well, they may really be contributing to a major success. So they shouldn't take their role lightly. That's one. The second is they need to understand the difference between being a captain and a coach. So when they were running their own company, they were the captain. It was for them to do what, what they want to do on the field. Now you're a coach. It's somebody else's job to run the company. It's not yours. So your job is to make the founders and the team scale in their minds. Your job is to make them better. Your job is to show them the possibilities, give them guidance, share from your own experiences in a way that they can relate to those experiences. Give them access to your own network of people they can talk to, whether it's technology, whether it's organization structure, HR. Be their guide for them, but don't run the company, because it's for them to run the company, because it's their dream. They are betting their lives. You're not, you're helping them. So, I absolutely do want to say to mentors, because very often people who've been very successful entrepreneurs tend to try and overpower the people they're mentoring. And that's not a good
As
idea.
they say, good mentoring is like snowfall. If it sits lightly, it will take a long time to melt and you'll get fully absorbed. So you have to be
That's
careful.
a very good analogy.
Mentoring should always be the light touch. We've run out of time, but I still have, I'm going to ask Bernard's permission to ask you 2 more questions. Is that okay, Bernard? Bernard, I'm asking you, is that okay for me to take just a few minutes more?
Absolutely. This is fascinating. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So, once you are involved in an enterprise, we tell people you should live, breathe, dream, and be completely passionate about what you do. But doing only one thing can also drive you crazy. Now, you look at someone like yourself, you have so many balls in the air, but at the same time, you're exceedingly fond of the hills. You've taken some friends of yours and set up your own place. And fortunately, you and your wife both enjoy that. You also enjoy your German dogs. I believe you keep one there. And again, it helps you because Lekha is equally fond of the dogs too. So would you advise founders when they're in the thick of things to also develop an alternate interest?
I think it's always good to have an alternate interest. So I do advise founders in business, you can only do one thing. You're doing a startup, this is what you're doing. You can't run 3 ideas at the same time. You're guaranteed to fail. Because as it is, the world is against you. The established players, there's a lot more money, there's all the rest of it is against you. It needs everything from you. So don't get distracted by other ideas on business. However, it is very useful to have something where you can blow some steam off. But it's not something that you do at the expense of your business. So I'll give you, I won't take names because this is a company in which I did invest and it didn't work out well. As you said, many fail. And this company had 30 days of cash left. And the guy had gone for a holiday to the Provence region in Europe. Now, it's good to have a side interest of holidaying in the wine country, but not when your company is in trouble. So you need to have that focus, but it's very good to have that extra interest. And that's one of the reasons in things that I have done, startups, I've tended to have at least a partner or 2 Because when things get very tough, there are phone calls you can make. I mean, there's somebody you can sit and have a drink with, and you're not moping just by yourselves. So I think it is a good idea to have an interest. I've always tried to have not many, but one. But I would only say, add just one thing, although you didn't ask me that. I think the most important thing, Sunil, is you must be sure that you are doing what you enjoy doing. If you enjoy doing it, you'll do it well. You can handle the stress, you can handle everything. But if you don't enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't matter how well you're doing it. You are under stress. So that mismatch, and I have made that mistake once in my life. So I really understand what that means.
At some point, I guess we all do. But you're right, and that's something that I've always suggested to people. Figure out a way to build your passion into your profession, and that's the best way to live your life. If you don't have that luxury, because all of us do not have that luxury, then learn to love what it is you do. Otherwise, getting up and going to work is a pain every morning. So
no, because there's so many friends whom I meet, particularly my batchmates from IIT, and they tell me, Saurabh, listen, at your age, you should now retire and do what you wanted to do. And I say to them, hey, that's exactly what I'm doing.
You're doing. You're doing what you enjoy. Right. So just one last one, Saurabh. Stratospheric valuations, I guess in some sense, it could also be a deja vu if you think back to the .com days and then the .com bust days, the boom and the bust. We saw a little bit of that rise again. And in the last few weeks, we've seen some nervousness in the markets. One of the things that many of us have been trying to get the message across, and maybe you can word it better than others, is that it's not just ideas that get funded. It's the ability to create a successful execution of good quality business that gets funded in the long term and continues to get funded at the right appropriate value. For some reason, that does not seem to get enough attention. We tend to go in these fads, in these waves of sometime only attaching an E to some business for getting funding, etc. And we've seen that happen in India as much as in other parts of the world. What would your advice be to the entire ecosystem now?
So this fluff or bubble happens every 7 to 10 years. I mean, in 1999, there was a saying that you had .com to your company's name and your valuation goes up 20 or 30 times. And to be called a software architect, you just had to walk through a software company. So a couple of things, very, very important. See, ideas are a dime a dozen. We all get lots of ideas. I get some great ideas just about when I'm going to go to sleep. I do nothing about it. So ideas mean nothing. This is a world full of smart people. Thousands of people get the same idea at any given time. It's the person who takes the idea and converts it into a successful, sustainable enterprise, where they're creating a product or service that people want and are willing to buy and willing to pay a price at which you can make a profit. If you haven't got that, you don't have a business, right? That to me is fundamental. So this whole thing on valuation, I think you have to focus on building value. If you do that, valuation will come. A lot of founders, a lot of entrepreneurs today are confusing investor money with customer money. I mean, you raise money at a big high valuation, you haven't won. You're still on the road. Now you have a lot of liabilities to somebody who invested in you.
That's when the work actually stops.
Yeah.
That's when the heavy lifting stops after that. Okay.
If you chase customer money, investor money will chase you. So I think the valuation piece will always rise and fall. In fact, the correction is beginning to be quite drastic in the US. Last 10 days has seen some very, very major changes. And they will correct, particularly for companies that don't have a line of sight to how they'll ever make money. Because see, at the end of the day, there is gravity. You can't live in the cloud. At some day, you have to touch ground. So if you don't have a line of sight to when you'll make money, you don't have a sustainable business, and eventually the bubble will burst. So, I mean, there is no question about where you will land up eventually. Whether it's here,
but we
5
do
years,
have an amazing runway ahead of us right now.
Yeah.
So if we keep our head down and focus on the right set of values and execution, I think we have an amazing future ahead of us. Saurabh, thank you very much. We've run 8 minutes over our time. I apologize, Bernard, for taking this extra time, but I thought this was an interesting and a very useful lesson for many who are on this call. There are, by the way, Saurabh, for your information, there are potential startups, there are educators, students, and business leaders on this call today. So this is wonderful, wonderful learning for them. So thank you very much for not just agreeing at short notice, but my judgment was right to have you in this session, even though it was a last minute call. But Bernard, I've already done your job for you. I asked Saurabh to support this initiative. I spoke to him last week, by the way, and he kindly already agreed. He nodded his head. I'm taking that as an agreement.
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here. I mean,
Thank you.
You're doing some phenomenal work, and every time I talk to you, you have some new initiative done. So
I'm actually not. I'm just taking credit for the work that many others are doing. But thank you very much, Saurabh. Thank you. Appreciate this.
Thank you.
Over to you, Bernard.
Thank you very much. What fantastic insight, and thank you so much, both of you. Fabulous insight. Okay, we're going to move on. Subrat Pani has very kindly agreed to share some insight with us around crisis that occurs during the business startup cycle. Subrat Pani is the co-founder of One Assist Consumer Solutions, one of the leading insurtech players. With over 4 million paid subscribers, Subrat's a veteran of retail banking who left his cushy bank job to start his entrepreneurial journey in 2011. And I'm sure that was an exciting journey. One Assist is backed by marquee investors, Sequoia Capital, Lightspeed Venture Partners, and Assurant US. Their unique products and services include protection for wallet digital payments, what a growth market that is, smartphones, consumer electronics and appliances. One Assist offers one app, one platform for all assistance and protection for all your bank cards, device, gadgets and appliances, all your daily essentials, offering complete peace of mind. As one of the pioneers in this space, One Assist offers cashless, paperless and doorstep service across 600 cities. Wow. Subrat always enjoyed working on new business opportunity and has been associated with many brands in their early stage. He set up business from scratch and scaled up successfully. He has worked with Kotak, Mahindra Bank, ICICI Bank, CBIGE, Arvanda Mills, Godrej Appliances and Sale. Subrat is known as a creative problem solver. That works well with our STEAM philosophy, and has an ability to simplify complex problems, not something we can all do. He has been coach, mentor and advisor to many startups and actively mentored 6 early stage startups in association with the IIM Calcutta Startup Incubator as a mentor. I hand over to you, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us today.
Thank you, Bernard, and such kind words, really appreciate. The earlier session I attended has been very heartening. Being an entrepreneur and being part of that ecosystem, people who are so passionate, listening to Saurabh was really goosebumpy. And Sunil, I must compliment you in terms of the whole conversation flow and the questions that's coming out. So I'm very fortunate and feeling very privileged to be part of this. And in my attempt to understand the audience, so how I have gone about it, what I understand is that, we are building an ecosystem and trying to support aspiring, smart, young entrepreneurs to live up to their dream and fulfill their idea of solving problems. So my talk is mainly focused around what has been my early stage experience And these are more detail oriented in terms of what are the things that you can be careful about. So let me present my screen and go to a few slides. Okay, like we said, the tagline is the journey of unknown. That's what it is. And I think you guys are lucky. I'm especially addressing my TG, which is young aspiring entrepreneurs, because you're starting without much baggage. When I was starting in 2011, I had a career. I had 17, 18 years of successful stint. I had a cushy job. I had a big title, and I had a lot of runway ahead of me. And hence, it was really a journey of unknown. So let's walk through that and go through that. I think the topic is very interesting. I don't know who thought about it, but I could, the topic was talking about, the crisis in the life cycle of a startup. I couldn't think of any crisis other than this one. So I felt there's only one crisis that we always stared at, and that was death, the death of the startup. So I think this is straight coming from the heart, from the experience that we have gone through. And maybe I'll share some of my learning and experience in terms of how not to invite that or how to die another day. I think the key theme is die another day. That's true for an entrepreneur. Yeah, I mean, a lot of you who are here right now, I mean, this is what is going on in your mind. This is what is occupying your mind space. There are so many bugs, so many ideas, like Saurav said. I mean, idea is no big deal, but it takes really years of experience and wisdom to land up there. So yes, so you're here because you have an idea, or are you here because I want to be an entrepreneur? That's really in today's age, like whatever we were discussing in the last session. Like there is so much color around the whole entrepreneur, unicorn, billionaires, founders, creating industries, histories in 3 years, 2 years, 4 years. So I think there is a lot of noise around this. So my question to all of you will be to think, why are you here? Even why are you even attending this session? So what's your game plan? And that's going to build your journey. So that clarity in terms of why you are here, what you are trying to do is so important to take the first point to decide, am I going to walk this journey? Taking into the stages, I think that's where you go through. I think you start with a lot of big ideas, a lot of creativity. You keep talking about it to your friends, your colleagues, and then but the journey of a startup actually gets created only when you start really creating the product and start offering to the market. So from idea to concept to product to demand to generating growth, making it sustainable, and then how do you make it viable so that you build a scalable, large enterprise. And that's what the objective is. That's what the vision is all about. Ideas are just hazy, you get very excited about it. So I'm really spending time on this because this is where we lose the plot. I mean, lot of entrepreneurs, before starting the whole journey, there's a lot of confusion, a lot of ideas, a lot of excitement, even a lot of emotional attachment and obsession about all your own ideas. So I think what is important is that, are you really at this stage, or the journey moves to a concept stage when you start fixing up some of the questions. And what are those questions? Like, for whom are you finding out the solutions? Why are you doing this? What are you doing? And where are you going to do this? How are we going to solve? So that's where an idea starts converting into a concept. And that's where it starts taking the shape. And then you get into the product. When you have an answer to these things, that's where you start. But the key question to ask is that, are you really stuck with your idea? Are you really going with some thoughts that you have? To me, in our journey, we realize whatever we are doing, is it solving a problem? The key question to ask for everything that you're doing in the very early stage of your journey is that, are you really solving a problem? it's not an idea or solution. Does the customer think that way? That's another trap. Like because I mentor startups, I have been part of various association and incubators and accelerators. So you just think that we think that way, but does the customer think that way? And the important thing to understand, people are doing with their life, right? Everybody is running with their life. Life doesn't stop. I mean, all of us had a lifestyle even 20 years back. Right now we have a lifestyle. In 2032 also we'll be leading our life. So the context is important. So people have their own way of coping with the problems. So why will somebody shift just because you've got an idea? I think these are the things which really made us think very hard 10 years back when we were setting up the company. And actually it changed the whole value proposition for the customer from where we had started and finally what we put on the table. And this is a very classical question, because there are startups who have created stuff which never existed. So the question comes, is there really a problem? Are we really trying? On one side, I'm saying you are here to solve problems, but you're also here to tap into an opportunity. But finally, what is the opportunity? It's created by solving or enhancing some problem. So this is an important one. Always you may or may not know how big is the problem, but I think it's very important to figure that out, because if you're trying to solve a big problem for a very small set of customers, then there is no path, there is no future, there is no growth. And similarly, if you're solving a very small problem for a large mass of customers, I mean, is the customer going to pay? Is he going to even care? So I think this is a tricky one, and it always starts with fixing a specific problem for a specific segment. And those are the journeys which have higher chances of success. Like when we were starting our business, we thought we had so many things to focus, to provide assistance and protect our customers' important belongings. But then we had to make a choice. So we thought we will choose things that people carry with themselves. And that is how the whole concept of protecting your wallet and protecting your mobile came into existence. But believe you me, we had 7 exciting stuff lying on us: medical assistance, assistance for commuters, anxieties around documents, data, and so forth. So you really have to make a choice. And the question is that why is the customer going to pay? I think one of the thumb rule you should, as a startup, you need to keep asking whenever your product is out. Assuming your product becomes free, will you have 1 million customer lapping it up? I mean, those are the real, there are of course very few, and those are the successful ones. Those are the hallmarks of really solving real customer problems. And it might be a relevant problem for a larger segment. The other thing when I talk to a lot of startups and entrepreneurs, one thing I don't get clarity, and it's a very difficult one. How do you know who is your customer? But do you have any idea what kind of people, what kind of lifestyle, what kind of events, what kind of situations will trigger a need for your customers, for your solutions, for your product? It's like, for example, we knew that what kind of people will be interested. People who are carrying 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 credit cards, debit cards, always on the move. Things can go wrong. They have multiple banking, they have digital banking, mobile banking on their smartphone. So those are the kind of insights which you need to gather to see who is your customer and how do you go after them. So the promise to solve problems is what the genesis of the idea moving into a concept, and that taking the final shape of a product. It's not about features. I think this will be a little relevant for people who are already in the journey and have their MVP and it's already working from them. But I think the first thing to look at is the user value. Is there a value that your customer sees in what you're offering? And that is how your MVP gets created. Of course, do you need to have an eye on the business value?
It's 4 o'clock.
Is it going to make sense for you? Is it going to help the company? Is it going to make you monetize your business model? I think that's always part of designing your business model. Now here from our learning, we have done a lot of mistakes, tons of mistakes. And one is definitely the traps of perfection, the perfection of what you are trying to build. And this is how it goes. So if you take 15 months to launch your first product versus if you take 3 months to launch your first product, the value that you are accruing for the startup, for the team, for the company, the capital you're conserving, and the customers you're learning from is enormous. So this is just an illustration of how this can be really painful and this can be very slow. So always look at how do you go about creating the minimum viable product, and how soon can you go to the market and test it out? Testing out your product with 100 customers is better rather than waiting for 6 months to create something which can be tested out by 1 million customers. And I think this is a part of the learning which came a little hard to us. We were coming from a corporate background. I think maybe in the second phase of our evolution after the initial 2-3 years, everything we did it this way. So MVP, 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 and that's, and even if you validate your concept with 30 customers, 50 customers, that's good enough. But are you even talking to your customers with the solutions that you have provided? And the bells and whistles can always help. I mean, you conserve capital, you conserve the learning to get it better. I think coming on to demand, the next phase, once you have the product and you have customers trying out, I mean, it's of course depends on different categories and maturity of the demand. So this is looking little kind of more in hindsight learning for us. But I think key thing you need to understand is that, are you in a category where you have to create the demand, or the demand already exists? Because of both business models are completely different. Like, for example, in our category, when we were coming in, something like that never existed 10 years back. I mean, nobody bothered about protecting the smartphone data, privacy, security, or the credit card, debit card, internet banking, mobile banking fraud, right? So we were getting into a category where demand did not exist. So we knew that we have to really create and work with the environment, target a specific segment, and then expand our business. So we had to build a business model which has to be really low burn and capital light. So we knew it will take a little bit of time and we'll not be able to go ahead of the demand curve. So I think that is a very important learning, and it will be very relevant for you. So what are you trying to do? Are you changing behavior? Yeah, if you have to change consumer behavior, then you'll need lots of investment, lots of investing, like how Paytm created the whole concept of wallet. So I think it created an industry, but we also know what went underneath that, changing that behavior. If Cred has created 500,000 downloads in 6 months, first 6 months, and that is because there has been an incentive story. Customers are getting paid for paying their credit card bills. So I think these are the things you need to be cognizant, very simple, but not visible. And that is how you arrive at the product market fitment. It is better to have one segment of customers loving your product and giving you a big thumbs up. And if you are not seeing repeat and referrals from your early customers, let's say your first 100 customers or first 500 customers, first 1,000 customers, if they're not coming back to you for repeat transaction, or they are not happy to refer your services or products to somebody else, I think it's time to go back to drawing board. Rather than putting more marketing money on and performance marketing dollar and trying to increase that 500 to 1,000 or 1,000 to 2,000, you will burn a lot of capital, and after a long time you'll realize, oh, the product is not working or the customer journey is not good. We should have fixed it earlier. So I think we shouldn't ignore these, and these are the crises, these are the death scenarios, because every time you take more time. See, in a startup journey, time is the most important currency, because time consumes capital, time loses your competitiveness, time, if you take more time, the market moves, customer moves, and your product becomes obsolete. So I think this is one cognizance. We are looking at startup, you look at money and traction and all that. But I think we always felt that time is the most powerful currency in the very early stage, the first 12 months, 18 months, 24 months of your journey. And again, I think this distribution is a big trap. People, I hear startups who say that we have a good product, it's working fine, but now we are setting up distribution. Hey, that setting up distribution can be a story for 3 quarters, 4 quarters, 5 quarters. It can just go on. So the point, what I'm trying to say is that distribution is double-edged sword. Like here it says, for a bad product, distribution won't solve for demand. But without distribution, you don't even get a chance to try. Your customers don't even get a chance to try. So what is important is to have your own go-to-market, figure out 1 or 2 channels, 1 or 2 ways of reaching out to customer, but definitely validate the PFM rather than saying that my distribution is not good and hence the adoption or the traction is not good. This is, I know this is like, again, very, very hard mentality, but very, very painfully learned. When you burn capital and you run out of time, that's the time when you realize growth can be misleading. So like who is buying whom? I mean, this is a question I ask. Is the customer buying your products or service, or you are buying the customer, right? And that's I have a very relevant small example, but there's a so the question to ask yourself is that why are they queuing up for their product? Firstly, are they queuing up? I mean, if they are, then you cannot read that as, oh wow, your product is a big success, you got the product market fitment, it's looking like now we can scale up and people are loving it. It's not. You need to really understand why are they queuing up for your product. And there's a pizza store which opened downstairs where I stay around 8 years back, and that was a great example. And this photograph of is the people who queued up for, and it's an international pizza brand. Of course, I did not want to talk about the brand. So look at the customer behavior. So these are, and because the 450 rupees pizza was available at 99 bucks. And they did day 1, then they did day 2, then they did day 3. Day 2, the queue started at 8 a.m. in the morning while the store was opening at 9:30. So the point again is that, are you misreading? Is it misleading? What are you buying? What are you paying them to buy your services? They should be paying to buy your services. But yes, initially you have to do your sampling, do your trials. But I think this is a big trap. And a lot of startups burn a lot of money showing those traction to investors. And after 5, 6 quarters, 1.5, 2 years, run out of money and run out of the value prop. I think this is a big trap. I mean, if you were to say again, another death trap. Just quickly moving forward, I think some of you will be knowing, and this is where an incubator, an accelerator, a mentor, a coach makes a lot of difference. What matrices to see, what to focus, what are the 1 or 2 things to do, get right at a particular stage of the startup. That's going to be most vital. Otherwise, learning in life is always rear view mirror. And startup journey also can be like that, but you're not left with time, you're not left with your team, and you're not left with your capital. I think this is where forums like this, I'm very supportive. I'm really very excited and very thankful that I'm also part of this to have an opportunity to talk to you guys, and really wish good luck to the accelerator and the promoters as well. So I think the growth, you can say I'm on a growth path when you see that your demand is repeatable and predictable. For example, if last week you did 3,000 transactions and this week you are doing 3,000 transactions and next week again you do 3,000 transactions, that is a better demand pattern rather than doing 3,000 last week and then 15 next week and then 6,500 the following week and again going down to 2,500. So I think predictability means that you are understanding your customer. Repeatability means that your team has got the hack in terms of how to go about acquiring customers and how to get the product communication and the pitches to the customer. Sustainability, I think this comes a little later on the stage. Maybe I'll rush through these. And this is very important. Like the earlier forum, we were discussing about what are we building? What is that we are building? We are not building something which is just going to stay there for a few months or few quarters. We are building something which is sustainable. And that is where all your years of effort, imagine now we have put 10 years of our life into this. And for God's sake, assuming that we haven't built a business which is not sustainable, what about, how have I been grateful or respectful to my own time and to my team members and everybody's life which is linked to that? I think this is a big responsibility and bigger responsibility for every serious entrepreneur. Traction, again, the traction is traction. You'll hear that when you go to investors, you'll hear about adoption, customer adoption, you'll hear about product market fitment, you'll hear about POC, you'll hear about traction. And traction is what gets Series A to Series B to Series C to Series D. But I think it can also be a trap. That's another trap. And here you need to really look at the cost of that traction. Here it is important to see what are you burning, what is the growth equation. For 1 rupee of revenue, are you spending 5 rupees or you're spending 2 rupees? And even if you're spending 6 rupees for 1 rupee of revenue, how has it come down in the last 6 months? And that is where you'll get a feel, are you really building something which is sustainable and something which is viable? This is, I mean, you would have heard it many times. But this is what also you hear as an argument. Once we scale up, all these will be sorted out. We will have operating leverage. Our margins will be up by 12%. EBITDA will be 16%. and blah, blah, blah. But it's not. I mean, scale won't solve for sustainability. It's really an and game. So while you are trying to build a sustainable business, you also have to focus on how do you get more scale, because so your learning is faster. Like this is what I was talking to, because when you have a lot of capital in the bank, a lot of money in the bank, and that way I think I really very thankful to our board members and investors. The question that you used to discuss, if you had unlimited money, what will you do? And a good strategy comes out of that question, right? And then I mean, really again, very thankful to having right people at the early stage of our evolution. We got funded on day zero at an idea stage. So our board is there with us since 2011. This is the question we choose to brainstorm. Assuming you have unlimited capital, you have 100 million on the check, how are you going to do things differently? What are you going to do? So I think this whole concept of traction, showing traction short term to get your next round done is a good. Like I said, survival is the answer, death is the only crisis. So all of us do that, and we have to do that. While you are doing all that, you really need to see what is the equation, how is it evolving for you, you know? And the whole theme is path one or path two. It's about die another day. This is not sustainable. This is not scalable. In terms of viability, I think this is a little bit maybe technical. In the early stage, it's not important. But if you're running a product and you have a go-to market and you have, depending on your category, of course, few thousand or few lakh customers or B2B clients, and you have revenue already generating, I think it's really time to look into your unit economics, because we start building a business on certain unit economics, but the unit economics actually changes. So I'm not dealing into how to calculate unit economics and all that you guys will be knowing, and some of you must be getting the right guidance on that. But it's very important to notice, are you making money at the margin level? So if you're already about to scale up and you are having a repeat business, repeat channel, repeat demand, and you are still not hitting unit economics, there is something really missing. And that could be a recipe for disaster, because the more you scale, more you lose. The way to approach this is that are there variables which are known, or everything is unknown? This whole game, I said, it's a journey of the unknown. This journey is about starting with unknown, converting them into known, building your pillars and foundations on the known, then again venturing out for the unknowns and converting into knowns through iterative process and with a lot of decisions that you have to take, right? So is everything in air, or are you optimizing COA? Are you optimizing your customer price? Are you optimizing your delivery model, your OpEx model? Hey, if you're at this stage, if you're optimizing for all of them, I don't think we have optimized for anything. And that is where the unit economics could be very, very scary. I think that's the way to know, do you really need to fix? Do you need to work out? Do you need to understand why customer is not paying what he's supposed to pay? And this is where the real journey moves from starting up to scaling up. Maybe today's discussion is focused more on the early stage, on the startup. So this has been some of the learning, and I say, and it's little exaggerated, but that's the truth. Scale won't solve anything, because we stay in hope that, you know, right now I'm 1 million. The moment I become 2 million, I'll become like this, become like that. I have 1,000 customers. If I have 10,000, I'll reach there. But, you know, scale won't solve for anything. In fact, at great scale, will throw all the shit up, and it amplifies all the crap if it is. And it's a good time to take stock and always go back. And that's where I say that, you know, hope is not a strategy. Scale will not solve for things. Hope is not at all a strategy. And this is the journey we spoke about. I think I'm running a little bit out of time. This is what we discussed so far. We discussed all these stages, the ideation, to creating a concept around that, to commitment. Commitment is your own commitment, your purpose. Why are you here? What are you trying to do? Do you really want to do this? So I think the time you are spending here, to me, the quality of time spent here increases your probability of success exponentially. And that is where, when I meet lot of new startups, concept stage and mentoring, coaching, this is where most of the time, a lot of them, I send them back to drawing board. Because this is not clear. The thought is not clear. Why do you want to do what you want to do? What is your passion? Are you solving something? Or it's your idea and you want to monetize and sell it? So I think my advice to everybody will be that there is a process which does not start here. This whole journey starts from here. And there's a deep amount of work, validation, talking to people, talking to potential customers, which is what goes into that. We spoke about this, like focus on only what matters. Focus on the main thing you're trying to do. The whole concept in today's world, 7 reasons to buy something is obsolete. You need 1 reason to buy one thing, right? And this is a big marketing myth. And I mean, I've been a traditional marketer in 90s and 2000. This is our marketing story. Everything used to talk about that. And you know, plus this, plus this, plus this. This is not the world of plus this, and you don't have the liberty to do that. MVP means MVP, just do what you are setting out for, try it out and move from here. And this we spoke about how you are reading your unit economics, how you are reading your customer acquisition, how you are reading your product market fitment will decide what kind of journey you can go from here. Because this will consume a lot of capital. If you've cracked something, got the GTM right, even if you get 1 or 2 channels right, if you got your PFM right and your unit economics are okay, you have a potential to walk this path. So that's essentially how I will define the traps in various stages. 3 lessons, quickly coming to the last part of what I wanted to share. 3 lessons from my journey with OneAssist. First question, have you written a note to yourself? The day you wanted to become an entrepreneur, did you write a note to yourself? Why you are doing what you are doing? I can raise my hand and say that I did that and I feel good about it. Every now and then I go back to that. So why are you on this journey? Is it the first 2 slides because I've got an idea, or I want to become an entrepreneur, I want to become a unicorn? All that is good, but what is the core of it? Is there a passion to serve? You can't build an organization and offer products and services over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, unless you're really passionate about solving something for the end consumer. And that passion does not have to be on day 0, it has to continue. Today, right now, as I'm speaking, we are still fixing things. We are still finding out new ways to solve things for us. Like, for example, earlier when you used to pick up a handset for mobile insurance doorstep and then drop it back to customer. The first journey we started, it used to take 39 days with bunch of papers and documents that the insurance company asked for it. And guess, right now in top 6 cities, we do it in 3.2 days. But this whole journey, and right now we are working on a project where I can say, in 30 minutes, can I approve your claim on the chat bot? And can it be a Dunzo device repair on the same day? So the whole point is, because we are not that the customer is asking for this, because we feel we are here to make it better and enhance the customer experience. So I think this is the first thing, and this, if it can stay with you, it will really do a lot of good for you. I think we don't realize, but we get scared of our customers. There are founders who don't like customer feedback. There are founders who get upset, flustered when people write reviews. Can you embrace it? Because your customers really build your product. I mean, it's sounding like a big statement, but from all my years of experience, 3 decades, various organizations and setting up the entrepreneurial journey, this is really the truth. So if you're really imbibing this, the life will be easier. And this is a chart which is a net promoter score for OneAssist customers when we started our device protection insurance journey. And believe you me, first month we measured, it was -38. As a founder, you will not like it. You'll hate it. And maybe you'll stop measuring it. You'll not have the courage to show it to your board. But we did all of these. We went to board and said, hey guys, we really want to measure the NPS because we want to be the best insurtech player in the whole country. Whether it is life insurance, whether it's general insurance, whether it is device insurance, how can you build the best insurtech experience for our customers? And believe you me, we had a great team. So 6 quarters, I mean, see from Jan 17 to, we were 60, imagine. In fact, the team turnaround from -38 to 0, that itself, we took it as a goal. So the whole journey is about your customers build your product. And if I have to map on top of it, how our product evolved because of this, that is enormous value, enormous value. So that's the second learning. If I have to in a quick way look at the big big ones that have made a difference, but it needs an attitude to listen and willing to learn. Even today, I personally we have a customer council where we pick up 5 escalation cases every month and drill through that. And that is helping us to bring in new processes, new programs, new ways of doing things. So are you really committed to listen and willing to learn from that? The next one is, your people build your business. I think young entrepreneurs, you are very young in your life, in your journey. So it takes a little bit of time. People who have been running large organizations. So if you ask Sunil, that will be his first answer to this question. What builds organization is people. So your customers build your product and your people build your organization. And hence, it really matters. So the way I put it, as an entrepreneur, I felt my biggest currency has been the culture. And culture takes time. But are you hiring the right guys? Are you spending time with people? Every time somebody good is leaving you, are you spending time understanding? Have you met all the people whom you hired? Your first 100 hires, first 200 hires, first 300 hires? Are you willing to commit that time? And those are the people who are going to build the organization, build the brand. I think, this is what, if I have to capture big things that made massive difference in my journey, those are the 3. Do you have a toolkit? No, you have only yourself. You are really lonely. So if you're thinking, but again, look at the caption. I'm saying the universe wants you to succeed. A lot of people want you to succeed. Your customers want you to succeed. Your investors want you to succeed. Your employees want you to succeed. So there's a whole universe which is rallying around. If you can pick up the right set of problems you're fixing, right values, the whole world is available. I feel these are your only toolkit. Your purpose, the whole ownership, your hunger to get better, deliver better for your customers, your self-belief, because you will go through 1,000 deaths. Only thing that will make you survive and walk and wake up the next day will be your self-belief and your courage to fail. And in fact, in the earlier session, the whole concept of failure and how premium it is what was getting discussed. And it's so true. So if you are going through all these things, feel normal. You're on the right track.
Thank you, Subrat. This has been a truly insightful experience. I genuinely thank you for sharing so much information with us. Die Another Day is a great title for this presentation. How would you like to close?
Yeah, so I said that you have a gift. Your gift benefits the world around you. You are lucky. You're embarking on this path early in your life. I wish I would have started this journey 30 years back, maybe 20 years back. And of course, bring it on. I think it's welcome to the journey of unknown. It looks exactly like this, but you don't need the visibility for 600 miles. You can drive with the visibility of 60 feet, right? And that's what your headlight does. And this journey is exactly about that. Thank you, and really appreciate for inviting me into this forum. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Subrat. Fabulous insight. Understand your customer, hold your customer close, and avoid the perfection trap. I absolutely love some of that insight. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today. Okay. What a lot to take away from Subrat. Thank you so much. We're going to move swiftly on to introducing one of a gentleman I've had the pleasure of working with in our incubator in the UK, Simon Colton. Simon is the owner and founder of One's Leisure Trainers. His brand was inspired by his family's personal journey, and now he's using that pain for a purpose. The brand is about giving back. One's are committed to donating 10% of its profits to blood cancer while working closely with other charities. Simon has used his 25 years of experience and knowledge in manufacturing, quality, supply chain, and working in various countries to design, develop, manufacture, and bring to market a fabulous, lightweight, sustainable, and comfortable trainer. Simon, over to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you for that. Firstly, thank you for inviting me to speak today. I feel quite honoured, especially after the speakers that have just been on. I'm at the very start of my entrepreneurial journey, so the insights today have been very fascinating for me. So thank you for that. I've made quite a number of notes, which has been good. But as I said, I'm on an entrepreneurial journey. It's the early part for me, and I wanted to explain to you how a life-changing experience can put you on a different path, completely different direction. And you're never too old to be an entrepreneur or a startup. That's something else I've learned. And at the Incubator Birmingham, as supporting me through my journey, I'm also going to touch on, as we all know, there's been a startup in the pandemic, which has been insightful and fun. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to share my journey with you. Just hope you can see that. Okay, so as Bernard rightly said, I'm the owner, founder of Wands. And my journey really starts, as Bernard says, it's the Wands journey was inspired by my family's journey. And there's my little girl there. She's my inspiration. I'm sure everybody's got children will say the same thing. That photo was taken, she was 7 months old. Beautiful, my only daughter, my apple of my eye, and everything else. And I had no idea what journey this little girl was going to take us on. It's a path no parent should ever have to walk. And we learned to take one step at a time, which is very significant, the one step in my journey, as I'll explain. Because at 7 months old, she was diagnosed with leukemia. Absolutely life-changing for us. She was given 50% survival rate till the age of 5. So we knew we got another 5.5 years of fear of losing my daughter. And one thing that I felt as a father was helpless, totally helpless. My wife stepped away from her shared business immediately to look after Mia, my daughter. And she was admitted into Birmingham Children's Hospital immediately. She was in Birmingham Hospital for 9 months. And when I say she was in there for 9 months, we only had a few days at home. We stayed in a marvellous charity room called Ronald McDonald Charity. We stayed there for 225 nights, just to give you some idea how life-changing this was for us. It wasn't just dealing with my daughter's cancer, it was also dealing with completely uprooting our home for a best part of 8 months to live near our daughter. And it's a charity that we support, which I'll talk about more. Obviously, when you go into these journeys, these treatment journeys, you don't realise how long they are. Mia's treatment was nearly 3 years long. But when she was in hospital, the 9-month journey, she was in there for 4 intense rounds of chemo. And it was a long, hard, fought battle to the point where in 2018, so she got diagnosed in 2017. In 2018, January 2018, she was just going into a 3rd round of chemo and she got sick. I mean, to the point of the consultant stopped the chemo and just said, look, we need to monitor the next few days. And this is where you start thinking that you can only take one step at a time. And it's very interesting what the last speaker said about 60 feet. That's all you can see sometimes because you can't see no further. And it was a little bit like that. And she got very sick to the point where I stepped away from my business. So I just not long started a consultancy business. I was working out in China predominantly. Fabulous career, one that I'd built up. And it was tough, but I had to step away because I needed to make sure my daughter was going to get through this chemo and get her home. And as you can see there, she went through countless chemotherapy drugs, blood transfusions, etc. That's a picture there of my daughter. That was the day before she was discharged. So she learned how to walk in hospital, talk in hospital, her first words in hospital, her first Christmas, her first birthday. All the magical first was done within the 4 walls of Birmingham Children's Hospital. And yeah, it was tough, but we just tried to make the best of a very awful situation. We got discharged in March 2018 and returned to a business, my wife. We had a couple of months at home trying to be a family after the ordeal. which was nice just to be a family for a couple of months. But obviously, we both stepped away from our businesses, so we needed to go back to work. My partner, Anne, she only works 10 minutes away. As I said earlier, I was working in China, so that's 6,000 miles away. So for me, it was the right thing to do for me to become a stay-at-home dad. And my wife got out to work. But it wasn't a stay-at-home dad. I was looking after me. She was still in treatment. She was still very sick. We were very isolated. So for the next few months, I didn't take her out. I didn't invite people around. And that slowly started to take its toll on me. I really struggled with the isolation. I struggled with the trauma from the hospital. I had too much time to think. I started to lose the sense of my own purpose, my sense of self-worth. I'll become a stay-at-home dad. My wife was going out earning money and I was not earning money, and it just didn't sit well as a man. It's a difficult scenario to get your head around. I'm sure a lot of people could probably relate to that. But I did it, and it came with its awful consequences where, unfortunately, I started to battle with my own mental health issues. I was digging deep to stay positive. That picture you see there, those are all smiles. That was September 2018. But behind my smile, I was actually quite a broken man. I was really struggling with life. I was struggling with the reality of where we were, and the fear of losing my daughter. I just couldn't get past. I couldn't see past it. I eventually reached out for help, professional help, in sort of September, October 2018, which was the best thing that I did. I wish I'd done it sooner, but I did it as a man to speak up and talk about his mental health issues. It is a battle that we all have. I'm proud that I actually do talks about men's mental health now, and I've been doing that for sort of 18 months, 2 years. But what that did, those sessions, it sort of managed my mental health, and it got me feeling like I used to feel. I'll never be the same person as I was, not through the journey that we've been on. But I'm a businessman, I was a consultant traveling the globe, doing what I do best, to being stuck at home. So I needed a challenge. I needed to find something. I needed a challenge that I could put all this anger, this anxiety, this trauma, this angst. I needed to put it into something. I needed to make something that was worthwhile. As Bernard alluded to, it's using my pain for a purpose. And this is where, interesting that the talks we've just been listening to, it's about the why. It's about why you're doing it. And I think that's an important thing for any entrepreneur going into anything they do. And for me, my why is that. That's my why. That's my family. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it'll always drive me to do what I want to do, and the reason why I do the things for the charity as well. And for us, every journey starts with one step. That's our company motto. That's the One's motto, because I believe that's what we have to do. So, building a brand. Let's start where we are with the entrepreneurial journey that I went on. I knew that I wanted to make something. I knew I wanted to build something that represented our journey. And footwear, trainers, I'm into sports. I've done a lot of sports in my time. So trainers and footwear seemed an appropriate fit with the one-step journey, one step at a time. We wanted to put something on people's feet to make them have their own one-step journey and feel comfortable all day. And we started with, you'll see there, with logos with Mia in it, because we wanted to personalise it. But we soon realised that probably wasn't a great idea, and it probably wouldn't look great in 2 or 3 years' time when she's a bit older, or 10 years' time. And then she put us saying, Dad, why's my name on the trainers? So we said, that's probably not a great idea, but we wanted to represent the one-step journey. So we went through branding of Ones, as you can see. And I think this is an important part of certainly the sort of business I'm going into. Branding is key for me. And the right branding was really important to get it right, because I want to see this brand in 10 years' time. My vision is 10 years, 20 years' time. And I want it to be seen globally. That's the vision. And then we came up with this, which is kind of where we are now with the Ones. We obviously went through the transition of what does that look like and so on. And so we came up with our Ones logo. And we talk about milestones in our entrepreneurial journey. And I was asked the question literally the day about what's the key milestone. And I said, there isn't one key milestone. There's so many key milestones. Although I'd done the branding, I hadn't even looked at what the marketplace was looking like. I just knew the branding got to be right. Then I moved on to the design of the product. And again, this area is an area that I've got no experience in whatsoever. And one of the advice I give to all entrepreneurs, and I do some mentoring now at the Incubator in Birmingham. What I say to people is that at some stages through your journey, you will have to get expertise on board. You cannot do it all on your own. And I know it's always, cost can always be a problem being a startup. We haven't always got the money. But believe you and I, it sometimes does pay to get the right people on board. Now, when I was talking to designers, I had 3 designers I was talking to. And the designer that I got on board, Katie, was the least experienced. But she got the brand. She got how I wanted to see it and the vision. And we went through some great drawings. Those are just a couple of drawings there that she did. I mean, I've got a catalogue of these, some that will come up later on with new designs. And we went through a fantastic design stage, and we came up with 3 models, which are at the bottom there, 3 very different styles. But what's important as well at this point, I started to do some market research. I tried to see what was sort of the big selling colours in the UK, what the trends were, kind of think about my demographic, where am I going to sell it to, who am I going to sell it to. It's important to do that. I also went out to China and looked at some factories at this stage, because the other thing I need to understand is how much is this going to cost? It's great having this marvelous vision of trainers and a global vision. If it's not going to be practically and cost effective, then it's going to die a death, die another day, was the motto, wasn't it? Which I think is fantastic, by the way. And I think through every step of that key milestone is understanding what costs are and the market. Certainly for me, because I'm selling a brand, I'm selling a product. From that, we went on to development and making samples. I was really, really fortunate to have met a guy that I used to work with. I used to have lunch and breakfast with him in China, and he had a factory over in China that used to make trainers. Never at the time I'd ever think they'd be making trainers for me. But he come on board, he's 40 years experience, and we started making trainers. We started making samples from the drawings. As you can see there, you can see the difference in the trainer. We had about 7 or 8 samples made all together, and I used to know they were coming. So there was myself, my wife, and Mia. We used to wait for it to come, and we'd open the box and video it, and it was just so phenomenal to see your own creation coming to life. And of course, what we've been through, what we're going through, it was just it was great for all our mental health, really, to see this sort of progress and seeing it come to life. It was amazing times until we come up with what our product looks like now. A fantastic journey. And again, I was in the background, we're starting to think about, okay, we've got a product, where we're going to sell it, how we're going to sell it, all those sort of things. The market research was important, the costing was important, and all that was lovely, and it was, but there's a lot more to it than that for running a business. There's so much more. And as you can see there, I've got just a few things that we talk about. So I think this is important, that these are the things we have to understand when we're going into being a startup entrepreneur. And I'm at my early stages of it. As I said, I'm new to being an entrepreneur. Although I had my own business beforehand, it was a consultancy work, it was more self-employed, but I understood the ethos. So it's your vision, your why is great, but what's your business plan behind it? What's your strategy? The financials, as I said, I was looking at the margins. Is it going to be commercially viable? Skills, you've got to be honest with yourself. As I said, I alluded to earlier, I got people on board that were experts in their field. But you've got to be honest, give yourself a skills self-development and be honest with yourself. Can you do these things? Do you need help? Marketing, the biggest thing at the moment. Of course, mine's all digital marketing, so it's understanding the who and the where and the why, which is the demographics of social media, the advertising. Then there's the website. Then there's the supply chain, the shipping. Where am I going to store it? How much is it going to cost? And of course, the big thing on everybody's on his portfolio is carbon footprint. How do I fit into that? Am I sustainable? Are the products eco-friendly? If they're not now, what's the plan? What's the plan in the next 5 years' time? Where do I want to be from a sustainable point of view? And when you're sitting there looking after your sick daughter and you're doing this, it's a lot. It's a lot for any entrepreneur, startup. There's a lot to take in. You can't do all these things. So I was struggling with it, and it's a lonely road being a startup, an entrepreneur, exceptionally lonely. I think everybody will agree with that. You're kind of on your own a lot. So imagine somebody says to you, how do you fancy some office space shared with other startups, entrepreneurs, that you get your own desk and you're surrounded by people on the same sort of journeys. It's got its own meeting room. It's got its own training presentation room. It's in the middle of Birmingham, fantastic location, and it's called the Steamhouse Incubator. Imagine somebody saying that to you, and you get all that going on. Well, that somebody was Julian, and thank you, Julian. I signed up immediately, and that was back in March 2022. There's me standing outside the incubator, Birmingham. A game changer, absolute game changer for me. And whenever I talk about it, that's what I say. It is a game changer. But as you just heard, I signed up. I was the first person to sign up in March 2020. So we know what happened in March 2020. We all had a pandemic, which we all got affected by in some way. But I said it was still a game changer. The guys in the incubator, so Richard Scott and Janine, fantastic people who run it. Within a couple of weeks, so I was in there for a couple of weeks before they had to shut the doors, but that didn't stop them. Within a few weeks, we were virtual. The virtual thing was on us, and the guys reacted to it well. So we still had our webinars, we still had our workshops, the one-to-ones, advice, support, mentoring, coaching. And what was good about this is that obviously they have a monthly webinar and workshop that they went out. But if there's certain things that you wanted to speak a bit more about, or you wanted some advice on finance, Richard and the team would put you in touch with the right people. One of the things that on the journey before the incubator, and one of the things I always talk to people about, is that I find it difficult to find the right support and the right information. And when you do, it costs. And sometimes it's not, you might have all this information, actually, it's not really what you wanted. Sometimes you just want somebody to give you a tick list, something just to say, yep, that's that, and you ain't got to worry about all the other stuff. And that's what the incubator, and that's what these webinars, seminars, and coaching and mentoring did. So yeah, absolutely. Even though we went into the pandemic, the guys, it was all online, and so it didn't feel like we were missing out on this great facility. The only problem is I was back in my office where I am now, back at home. That was the only downside. I've lost the touch and feel of seeing people. But what the Steamhouse has given me in the past sort of 18 months, coming up to 2 years now, we secured some fantastic photography and filming through an ex-student at Birmingham University. It's all the pictures I'm using now, apart from obviously the family ones, are all done by her. Without the help of the incubator, I wouldn't have had that, and it would have cost me a lot more money than what I had to pay. I did some marketing training online, some workshops, because that was an area that I knew that I needed to get better at and tighten up on. Funding, they give me the right information for the funding, they give me the right links, speak to the right people, so I got funding that I knew that I needed. But most importantly, and I think this is the point, it's given me the tools and the confidence to make a more informed business decision. I think that's the key to the incubator. Yes, of course, it's going to put you in touch with people that are going to give you the advice, the information, and the product or whatever it is at the end. But it's having that confidence to sit here and talk to you guys. I mean, it's a platform of very successful businessmen. I'm still starting my journey very early, so I feel comfortable in talking about certainly incubator and my journey. I touched on the pandemic, and I think regardless of pandemic, I think you've got to be ready for challenges, and you've got to be ready to adapt. Any entrepreneur and startup will certainly tell you that. So for me, the One's launch was cancelled. I was supposed to launch in 2020, around August, September 2020. That didn't happen after the pandemic. That was a huge blow. I'd already been, working on it. I'd got all the samples signed off. We were kind of ready to go. We were just looking at the marketing and everything else. Then around September time in 2020, the factory that was supporting Ones couldn't do it anymore due to the pandemic. They had a lot of financial issues, a lot of orders cancelled. They had materials that they bought for orders, and obviously they couldn't support us financially. So middle of a pandemic, I now found myself without a factory. But you think of your why, and you think of why you're doing this, and you keep determined. So I sourced a new factory in the middle of pandemic, which was great. However, I still had to get new samples made and produced and signed off. So of course this is pushing the next launch further out and when I'm going to launch. And also I had to secure new investments. And the reason for that is the factory that I was using, they were going to support me by doing smaller quantities. So obviously the outlay of the finance was less, and they were going to do it on shared containers. So all my outlay would be minimal, buying the product and bringing it in, and I would have only had a small space to obviously keep it in the UK and then distribute it. Now, all the factories I was talking to, because of the pandemic, and they'd all been stung or hit in some way, they wanted a container of product. So I went from having probably ordering 500 or 600 to ordering 4,500 pairs of trainers in a full container. So yeah, that was a massive investment that I had to find. But again, speaking to the guys and the team at the incubator, they helped me talk to the right people, put me in front of the right people, and also made sure I didn't make the mistakes. Because when I did a startup loan, and I believe if I'd have filled that in and sent it off without the help of people like Richard and Vernon, who comes into the incubator, I think I wouldn't have got the funding. I wouldn't have filled it in to the requirements they wanted. And even I class myself as a fairly, up to speed business sort of person, but I think I actually would have failed it, if I'm perfectly honest. So that's important to understand what these things, and again, going back to my the confidence to make better business decisions. Obviously, this last 12 months, we've had material costs, factory closures for all sorts of reasons, pandemics, obviously, that hit all of the countries, so they've had to go on short staff. Production's been put back. All these things have hit me. Increased shipping costs. I'm sure a lot of people on this do shipping across the globe, and we've all felt that has just increased fourfold for me for the increased shipping costs. And all this at a massive detriment to me personally as an entrepreneur. But it's a point that I put back to people is you've got to be ready for these challenges. I mean, the pandemic is a major thing that we wouldn't expect to have, but you will still get hit with problems. And there's been times I've wanted to throw the towel in, and there's been times where I've got the trainers, the samples, and threw them in the bin and thought, that's it for me. But for me, it's always remembering is my why. That's what's kept me going. So we launched in December 2021. So only a month ago we launched, just over a month. Again, I would have liked to have launched August, September last year, but again, because of shipping issues and everything else, it was pushed back. But we finally launched. And this is the range. These are the trainers. Now, the trainers are lightweight, comfortable trainers. That was the brief to the factory, and that's what we made. I wanted them some sustainability, and the brief was that. So the trainers are actually as light as a running trainer. So if anybody does any running or jogging or anything like that, these trainers are exactly that light. Now, they're a leisure lifestyle trainer. They're not a running trainer or a core trainer. These are for your everyday use. The new way of working is in the home office and fit into the office, then coming back. These are the footwear that represents. It's called the RMC range, and we do a lot of work for one of McDonald's. As I said, we stayed there for 225 nights. So the launch rate is called the RMC, which is the Ronald McDonald charity. And when we was there for 225 nights, we stayed in 3 different rooms, and the rooms weren't numbered. They had names, and there were names of villages or towns and so on. So we named the brand and the product dedicated to Ronald McDonald, and we stopped in the Cooksley room, we stopped in the Cantaloupe room, and we stopped in the Broughton room. So the whole range is dedicated to a fantastic charity that were a lifesaver for us. Our partnership is with Blood Cancer UK. As Bernard introduced, we are committed to do 10% of our profits to Blood Cancer UK. And the reason we've chosen that charity is that they do phenomenal work. Obviously, me out of blood cancer, it was right. It was fitting for the brand to pick that sort of charity. The research that they've done over the last 20, 30 years has been a real changer in the blood cancer treatments and the research and so on. And they continue to do that. And they're on actually a bit of a breakthrough on certain drugs at the moment. So any funding they get, anything they get resource-wise, will help them hopefully get over the mark. And they're really close to having some really big news on Blood Cancer UK. These things take time. When they say close, in the terms of cancer research, that could be another 2 to 5 years, but that's remarkable, really. It's also said sustainable. So our sustainable partners, Bloom. I don't know if anybody's come across these. They're an American company. And what they do, they harvest the algae off the top of lakes and ponds and so on. Now, we all know algae is really detrimental to the ecosystem. It kills all the plants, it kills the fish, and all those sort of things. And what this company have done and what they do is they harvest the algae off the top of these lakes and so on. They then turn it into like a plastic pellet. And that pellet then can be mixed with all sorts of EVAs and rubbers and compounds. So in the outsole of the trainers, we have bloom, a percentage of bloom, which makes our outsole, which is the EVA, which is probably one of the most unsustainable part of any trainer. It has this bloom sustainable product in it. Now, the reason I chose these is because I like, it's the manufacturing, I think. I like KPIs. I like to be able to measure what we do. A lot of people say we're eco-friendly, sustainable. What does the measure do? So with bloom, say if there's 10% of bloom in my outsole, so my trainers are 238 grams in weight, the 10% bloom, I know I'm putting 54 litres of clean water back into the environment and 38 cubic metres of clean air back into our environment for each pair of trainers. It's all on the website. It's just really clever science and really clever how they measure every bit they clean, what they're putting back in. And that's why I chose Bloom as our sustainable partner. The trainers aren't nowhere near where I want to be with sustainability and eco-friendly. And as I said earlier on, but there's a plan in place to move forward with that. The guy that the company I'm working with is Native Shoes, and all of their product is eco-friendly and sustainable. So hopefully in the next 2 years, I'll be working with them to bring an more eco-fitting shoe. All through throughout the journey, there's been far more lows than highs, and it certainly feels like that. But I do believe those lows are when you learn and you become a better entrepreneur, because you're able to take on board the failings and learn from them and move forward. And it also then takes away, keep looking at the end goal, because sometimes you can get completely sidetracked looking at the end goal when actually there's so much going on here. And I think failing helps you stop and realize that needs to be done, and it helps you grow and learn, certainly. But I never forgot my why all the way through it, and that's my driver. And there's my driver, my little girl. This was last year. She rang the bell for end of treatment. She was 5 in December last year. Yeah, cancer-free, lovely, beautiful girl, growing up to be whatever she wants to be, totally. But Daddy wants to leave a legacy for her. Daddy wants to leave something that she can look back and say, we went through hell, but look what Dad did. And I wanted to be proud of the fact that I did something instead of just sitting back and doing nothing. I felt I had it in me, and I felt I had the capabilities, the knowledge, and the people around me to do that. Yeah, so every journey starts with one step, and that's my one-step journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. What an inspirational journey. And thank you for sharing that insight with us. We all have our different drivers to drive our entrepreneurial journey, and that's a very personal journey you've shared with us today. And we will work together, and I'm sure your success will be fantastic in the years to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Okay, so I would like to introduce Professor Julian Beer, my colleague in Birmingham City University, and a passionate supporter of enterprise and particularly STEAM principles. Professor Julian Beer is a Deputy Vice Chancellor at Birmingham City University. He's a Professor of Knowledge Transfer at BCU and Emeritus Professor at Plymouth University, and a Visiting Professor at BML Munjal University, India, and a Visiting Professor at LP University in India. He has founded and led several research centres, institutes, as well as led numerous national and international initiatives. In 2021, he launched the Midlands Innovation and Knowledge Exchange Institute and leads on the development of this MBCIE Institute in India, and co-founded the world's first Centre for Brexit Studies, which has been a huge success. Welcome, Professor Beer.
Thank you, Bernard, and apologies for such a long introduction. You could have cut that a bit short.
We have to remember that our audience doesn't necessarily know who we all are and the value that we add into this opportunity collaboratively in India, and we all have significant backgrounds and experience which we'd like to share. As a professor within academia, how has your interest in enterprise been stimulated?
Yeah, so in my academic disciplines, I studied economics, I studied social policy, regeneration, and a number of other topics. And it always struck me as the fascinating socioeconomic mix between people, individuals, communities, and money. And one of the key drivers of success for any area is business. Entrepreneurship was a key interest of mine, and I got involved with a number of government departments and advised government about how universities could actually get engaged with supporting entrepreneurs, not just in the student community, but how universities can act as anchor institutions within their environment, within their town, city, etc. And I've written on that extensively, and that's a topic that fascinates me. And I've always been an entrepreneur rather than an entrepreneur. So I've had the pleasure of using the university's money to do startups. You talked about the Centre for Brexit Studies, but I've done many, many others. And it's always fascinated me and inspired me in terms of walking into the incubator, for instance, and seeing someone like Simon and talking to Simon and getting his journey, and just listening to the other panelists today, you know, really inspirational stories about failure and about keep going, about the research, because I mean, that's academic. People might not realize that, but you have to do your research. And then, you know, getting involved in all the aspects of setting up your business, whatever that might be. And, you know, I get that enjoyment of helping other people's journeys and supporting those journeys. And I know you do, and Rich at the incubator, and our good friends and partners in India, Mr. Munjal, again, and his whole group support entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurial journey, because we think it's the right thing to do, and it's really exciting.
Thank you. I know that you've had a significant background. You've chaired a very large science park. You've stimulated huge innovation centres across the southwest of England. You've supported incubators. What do you think are the key components of a successful incubator accelerator?
Yeah, I've also had the pleasure of going around the world and looking at incubators elsewhere, and looking for, I guess, the successful ingredients that make up a really inspiring space to help and support entrepreneurs. And you know, the ones that I've been involved in are very different. I've seen a lot of private sector, no offence to the private sector, incubators that are little more than rent a desk or rent a space. Whereas what we try to do with the ones that I've been involved in is add in the knowledge base to that, whether that's the accredited learning or unaccredited learning, the ability to be able to connect people, because universities know a lot of people. I know a lot of people. I have a big black book of contacts and people that I can make introductions to for entrepreneurs in lots and lots of fields that they perhaps wouldn't bump into, whether that's very high up in government or banks or funding institutions, or whether that's, designers or other people that, could be a real help to the business that's being started. So what makes a successful environment? I think we've heard some of that today. I mean, Simon alluded to some of that. The journey is often a lonely one, and being in that community and working alongside others that are on the same journey as you might be in a totally different business sector or different idea that they're trying to take forward. But just having that ability to talk to fellow entrepreneurs and the people that we put in place to actually support those entrepreneurs like Rich, who have supported thousands of businesses over many decades, and it just adds to that environment. But also connecting to the academic base, we have a whole student talent pool that people like Simon and others can call on to help. So we have fashion, textiles, design, marketeers, student accountants, lawyers who can look after IP and other aspects of protecting your business. And for them, it's real experience, it's hands-on experience. For our students to work with these entrepreneurs, they can go to either start their own business or to a job and say, this is a real life project I worked on. This is the fantastic company that I've been supporting, or companies that I've been supporting. We also have the academics, of course, and all of our brain power to add into the mix. And our academics get really closely involved with a lot of those startups. And again, research, and we do a lot of research. We have a lot of research kit and equipment, and the entrepreneurs within the incubators, science parks that I've been involved in can utilize the benefits of the university. And again, that's, I think, a USP for an incubator or an innovation center or a science park that's linked to the academic base. They don't necessarily sound like good bedfellows, academia and business and industry, but believe me, I've seen the power of academics working alongside and students working alongside entrepreneurs, and it's really, really exciting. It can drive business growth.
It's more than just the dry dynamics of the business plan and understanding the skills required. It's the broader network, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So we're very excited by your thoughts and the fact that you've driven over the last 5 or 6 years the STEAM House activity within Birmingham and driven by Birmingham City University. Can you share with us the methodology and value exchange that STEAM House is bringing to our business community?
Yeah, I think Mr. Sunil Journey has talked very eloquently in terms of the power of adding the arts and creativity in with the STEM-based subjects, the science, technology, and engineering. And for me, I've always been a polymath. I've always thought very differently from some of my academic colleagues who, no offense to them, they have the deep knowledge and understanding in their subject areas, but often don't see things from different perspectives, different angles. I've always looked at things in that network, that different approach. And that seemed quite obvious from getting those innovation breakthroughs and mixing and bringing different perspectives to the table of the artist, the creative mind, alongside the deep thinking, technical mind that some of the engineers and the technical areas, mathematics, for instance, have. Although mathematics is very creative if you want it to be, but actually merging and colliding those different disciplines and different actors, such as students, academics, members of civic society and the business community, startups and big corporates, creates a really dynamic and exciting environment where you can look at the grand challenges we all face in society, such as climate change, but also you can come up with very different products and services which are of benefit to society and profit in terms of getting a really differentiated business opportunities out there. So we went about testing the theory, testing this whole STEAM agenda, and fellow travelers came on board, such as the Munjals, who think very in a very similar light, and looking for where they've done it previously under maybe different guises, different names. So looking around the world where best practice has been established, in America, for instance, Delft across in the Netherlands, and many other places, and just bringing all that together to create something absolutely unique, which is Steamhouse, which is a £72 million building in Birmingham. But it's not about the building, it's about the community that we're putting in that building, which is what I said. It's the mix of the student, the academic, the entrepreneur, the corporate, the startup, and civic society, all mixing together, thinking about and coming up with solutions to the real knotty, wicked problems that we face, both in society and in businesses. And that's due to open this year. But the other really exciting avenue for me is the partnership that we've established in Ludhiana with Hero and with the Munjal Foundation. Really exciting. Not just going to be in Birmingham. With our centre in Ludhiana, we can connect Birmingham to Ludhiana and create a trade bridge for our entrepreneurs in the incubator and for businesses in the West Midlands to connect with businesses in India and vice versa. We want Indian businesses that are looking to enter the UK market to use Steamhouse as a launch pad for their products and their services. So we're really excited to be on this journey with our good friends, the Munjal and Hero Group. So it's a really exciting journey. And I'm speaking rather fast, and apologies to some of the listeners. I realise time is short, but I can obviously talk another day, to use one of the phrases, not die another day, but talk another day if needed.
So could you just summarise the services that we will collaboratively be delivering in Ludhiana as part of the Steamhouse mix?
Yeah, absolutely. So all the things I've mentioned, so that knowledge exchange and using the academic base both in the UK, but with Indian academic partners to help and support entrepreneurs in Ludhiana. We will have pre-incubation, so that's pre-trade, ideation, generating ideas. We will have the incubation facilities and hopefully grow on space, but also the real central piece to this is that collision space, that networking opportunity where you can bring like-minded people together, and then also not like-minded people. You can introduce some really uncomfortable speakers that can actually challenge and push the boundaries of your thinking in that space. And then we're going to be offering both non-accredited programs like this, but also coming later this year with our partners, we will be offering an undergraduate program, a postgraduate program, and we will be looking at twinning that obviously with what we do at BCU, but also Indian academic partners. So we will have something quite unique and trailblazing. But as a conversation with Mr. Munjal, this is going to be groundbreaking. There's nothing like it in the Indian education system at the moment. And we're going on our own entrepreneurial journey. We're looking at markets, we're looking at all the things, our products, our services. And really exciting times, Bernard, in terms of that entrepreneurial journey we're taking with our centre in Ludhiana and our twinning of our Birmingham centre.
Thank you so much, Professor Beer. Unfortunately, I think time has run away with us today. Thank you for that insight. And I will get myself off the screen. Thank you so much.
Bernard, before Mr. Rai comes in, I'd like to say a special thank you to Professor Julian Beer, as also to Professor Plowden and the entire team at BCU, which has been amazingly supportive of the entire idea of creating something unique, something practical, and something experiential, which, as Julian just explained, can be highly, highly beneficial for individuals, for startups, for founders, and for small enterprise, not just in Ludhiana, but in the region, and build a bridge from here to what you do in the Midlands. I think this is a unique and an amazing opportunity. Thank you very much, Julian, for leading this initiative.
Thank you, Julian. We are equally excited for a wonderful journey of MBCI. And I need to thank you. This was an amazing day. Let it be said very clearly. It was designed by you and Bernard. Sunil Munjal was such an enthusiastic participant, I can't tell you. This morning at 7 o'clock, we found that one of the speakers is not coming. So imagine he organized in the shortest possible time. I'll take just 2 more minutes and tell you this was only a curtain raiser. What is it in the offering that we are giving to the people who are participating there, and we'll be unfolding it. So I'll request Prem Kumar and Vijay, who is helping us from Birmingham, and Prem Kumar is looking from India. Very shortly, just tell what else is an offering from us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Raza, and thank you, Sunil, for
Turn one of your devices off. You have 2 devices on in the same room.
Thank you. Sir, thank you very much for putting the whole thing.
Still an extreme echo.
म्यूट हो नहीं रहा।
You need to unmute yourself here. Please unmute, and maybe someone can turn the other one off so you can hear a sound.
Right.
This is perfect.
This project, which is led by Mr. Sunil Munjal, is a kind of disruptive project which has 3 parts. The first part is the education, about which Mr. Sunil Munjal and Mr. Julian Beer just spoke. There are 2 parts of the educational disruption. One is team-based postgraduate and undergraduate degrees. The other is short-term training programs for professional development. So Vijay will speak shortly about the professional development programs. The vision of the institute is to grow future leaders through innovative education and training programs. The center facilitates innovation, adoption, and absorption of new technologies, cutting-edge technologies. We are trying to contribute the other way, bringing, integrating education, industrial innovation, and incubation. So there are 3 parts of this project, and as Mr. Rai said, we will be offering short-term programs soon. This is part of that initiative to offer short-term programs. The Steam House India has already started working, and we are open to take projects. One of the projects that Steam House has recently taken up is to develop Ludhiana as a component hub for e-bicycles and e-scooties. The other projects are in the area of scaling up small and medium enterprises, process development, product development, research and development into operations. Now I will request Mr. Vijay. Dr. Vijay is involved in the academic side from Birmingham City University. May I request Vijay to speak about the short-term program that we have lined up shortly.
Sure, Dr.
Vijay.
So we have 4 short courses lined up, starting with the introduction to virtual and augmented reality, leadership in manufacturing, and obviously the business startups was introduced by Bernard yesterday and today. And also we have something with respect to the growing the family business. So I'll run past by this. So as the chairman mentioned, we are very and also our Deputy Vice Chancellor mentioned, STEAM-based approach is what actually we are trying to bring in all the aspects of the academics. So to start with is the introduction to virtual and augmented reality. So again, this is something that is quite evolving. Especially, we believe that this is something that would be a stepping stone or a building blocks for metaverse, which is again getting very much in the books of lots of tech companies and also the startups. So our aim is to provide such building blocks in this 3 months short course. We would encourage not only people who are into technology, but also business people and also people who are creative to come and take this course and then see the power of the technology that they would be, can use in their domain. The second in line is the leadership in manufacturing. Again, with this short course, we have unique faculty from UK side and Indian side, a cross-cultural faculty, rich expertise from industry would actually bring this short course alive. We would be concentrating more on the machine learning, artificial intelligence, how this actually re-energizes the manufacturing that is in place. We being from Birmingham, which again expertises in manufacturing, so the expertise from Birmingham City University is something that we would try to get on board. And Professor Cham, who has immense experience from Birmingham City, would be leading this. Obviously, no further details required because Mr. Bernard covered quite a lot about incubation. But one thing I want to highlight is the incubation center. As part of the short course, we would encourage people who have their best business plans working along with us to help them seed funding, working through the incubation in MBCIE. So that is something that, and also the next short course is on the growing the family business, which would be head by Dr. Shashank. This is something that we trying to bring how disruptive technologies, can be addressed and also be made use in the growth of the family businesses, both from an governance perspective and also from the technology perspective and how to bring them. So these are the lined up short courses we have, and obviously I'll give back Dr. Prem to finish off. Dr. Prem.
So our facility is now open, and we are looking to lead the transformation in education, training, industry, innovation, entrepreneurship, and startups in this region. Thank you very much. Thanks.
So it was a wonderful day, and I thank everybody, participants, and the people who have, and my colleague Sudhir from the bank side, and amazing experience of Simon Courtney. I am sure our next program designed by Birmingham City University will be equally, if not more, interesting. Thank you very much. Thank for all that your patron, and I wish you all well and enjoy the winter in India. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon, everybody. Have a good afternoon, everybody.